What a great audience. So we'll make you guys our traveling audience for this show. So, I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to come and listen to our presentation about a county action plan. But before we get started on our PowerPoint, what I'd like to do is just kind of see what counties are represented. So if you're from Fulton County, raise your hand. Okay. And then go ahead and put them down. What other counties are represented?
Marshall.
Marshall.
We're from Marshall as well.
Marshall. Pulaski.
Miami.
Miami. Great. Cass. Awesome. Awesome. So just about all the adjacent counties. And that was our goal, to share this idea of what we found to be working in our county. Because I think as we start to push the Smurfs out of our county, they're going to start showing up in your county. So I see law enforcement represented. What other sectors of the community do we have represented? Politicians? Education? DCS?
Cameron and I are here to bring a little bit of science to the conversation.
Science. We need science.
The Purdue Extension.
Purdue Extension?
It's Indiana Association of Cities and Towns.
All right.
Marshall County Drug and Tobacco Free.
Okay. Which is their local coordinating council.
Right.
Okay.
Before we get started, may I have a couple minutes?
Okay.
This is all about you guys, of course. Forget out that I'm a politician. I'm also a retired police officer. I want to give you guys something. In 1971, we had a raid in Fulton County and netted 500 pounds of marijuana. And I'm going to pass these pictures around because in 1992, we had the first drug raid that ever happened. Rick can tell you, he's a prosecutor. This is the first drug raid we ever had that you're doing right now. This was called Clean Sweep. I think you have a clean team today. And Rick can remember this. This is all the people that are arrested in here with their pictures and their names are in this thing. So what you have to do is continue what you're doing, because I just wanted to say we have done this before. Pulaski County was involved. We had 5 counties involved in it, and it cost Rick and I and all of us lots of money to do it. But just to start it off, it's been done before, and it can be done again.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so we're going to share with you our county action plan, some lessons learned that we feel that you would be part of the solution in stopping what we refer to as Indiana's meth lab merry-go-round. Our Citizens Action Committee came together in March of this year. We had an Indiana Youth Institute sponsored event out at the fairgrounds, where Sergeant Brock Russell of Indiana State Police came in and did a wonderful presentation about meth. It was about an hour long. We had 50 or so citizens involved, or that came and heard Brock's presentation. And I think from there it sparked some people in the community. It's like, we need to do something. So Val Pemberton, where did Val go? There he is. Val organized us, or got a group of people together. We met at the Sheriff's Department in March also, and learned about the CLEAN team, that's a multi-jurisdictional law enforcement task force for Miami County and Fulton County, that they were going to be starting some aggressive actions against the meth labs. And we also heard in that meeting that in Fulton County in December of 2014, that 700 boxes of pseudoephedrine were sold. And that was an eye-opener for us. So with Harry there sitting at the table, it's like, wow, here we have law enforcement doing the best job to fight the meth problem in our community. At the same time, the pharmacies are open 24/7 or whatever their hours are, providing the active ingredient to produce meth. So we said, we need to do something. We need to work together with law enforcement in a grassroots effort to make a difference in the meth lab problem. So this is Harry. You probably know Harry. He's got 2 stores. If you're from outside the county, you may not. He's got a store in Akron and one in Rochester. I work on the, like Valerie, I'm the coordinator for the LCC, the Local Coordinating Council in Fulton County. It's called Drug Free Fulton County. and I've been working with YSA, Youth Services Alliance, an agency out of Cass County, for about 15 years. And I work in substance abuse prevention. On our committee, along with Val, we have Sheriff Sailors, we have banking folks represented, insurance, city councilmen, Gloria's on our committee, and I probably left out a couple, okay? But that's kind of what we started with. So what are we going to cover today? Our objective is to kind of highlight the magnitude, show some numbers. Some of you in the room probably are well aware of the numbers, but we're going to talk about the process that fuels the daily meth lab problem, the source of the problem, and we're going to provide a simple solution what we think has a really good proven success story. And it's based on, in our research and whatnot, we found a law that was passed in March of 2011 in the state of Arkansas. And basically, that's the model that we're using that we're going to talk about later on in the presentation. So we hope to encourage other counties to start a grassroots effort in their county to do something now and not wait on legislation at the state level to make a difference. Because we found that by talking to the pharmacies, we can get something going. We can complement the efforts of law enforcement. And so we're going to provide you with this action plan, and at the end of the presentation you'll have a packet of information to take with you. So here's the numbers. 11,000 or so meth labs found each year in the country. Okay, but who knows what the real number is? Those are the ones that get busted. And you may not know, but Indiana leads the nation in the past 2 years in number of lab seizures. Past 2 years in a row. Purdue Extension put out a report earlier this year that listed the 42 rural counties that were having meth problems. You can see where Fulton County is third on that list of 42. Stark County is number 1. And Pulaski County was 17 on that list. And that was based on population. Here's the numbers from Indiana State Police, okay? It's over the past 20 years. You can see a spike there in 2004. Some legislation was passed after that, like 2005, which basically prevented pseudoephedrine products from being sold over the counter. So you can see it caused a dip. But then since 2007, that's been sloping upward at a pretty steep rate. Okay? We've had some other laws that have been put in place. But if we look at the last 5 years and look at DEA data for lab incidents, the numbers between ISP, Indiana State Police, and the DEA are very similar. Okay? But if we look over the past 5 years, nationally, the number of incidents has decreased by 40%. Over that same period of time in Indiana, we've seen an 18% increase in lab incidents. So, pointing out to us that it's time for Indiana to do something, okay? We probably all know that we've heard legislators talking about and had conversations amongst ourselves about making a prescription-only requirement. There's not the political will for that in our state. But we found a good compromise solution, we believe, to not wait on some kind of legislation, but do something now in our communities.
There's a chair there, and we got one over here.
And here's probably the biggest reason for us to do something, okay? Shows the number of children found in lab environments. And you see 382 last year. These kids are exposed to toxic chemicals, fumes, burns, possible burns, the neglect and abuse that happens with meth-addicted parents, okay? That alone is reason to do something. Harry's going to share with you some seizure numbers.
This is a messy graph, but I'll try to explain it to you. This is actually showing all 7 counties involved in our immediate market. And some of the things to point out is, obviously, early in the game, back in 2008, 2009, This is Marshall County, and this is Kosciuszko County, had over 80 lab seizures. Since then, they've trended downward pretty significantly, but everybody else is trending upward in some fashion. So, this is population adjusted. Obviously, Kosciuszko County is the largest county. So what we did is just divide the population by 10,000 and created meth lab data. And so you can still see the Marshall, here's the Kosciuszko peak. But what is more significant is everybody else is climbing. And here we go, Fulton County. We may not be the biggest, but we are per capita. We led the pack in 2013. This is Stark County here.
And in 2014,
So that's 14 labs for every 10,000 people.
and in 2014, lab seizures across the state, Miami County ranked number 9 out of the top 10. Miami County was number 9, and Kosciuszko, another neighboring county, was number 2. So just
Yeah, there's, I think it's 14,000 people in Plaskett County, but there's 80,000 people in Kosciuszko County, roughly.
So this again shows the last 5 years of lab seizures. The change in color indicates when NPLEX, which is a national precursor log, was put in place. It's a tool that can be used by the pharmacies, actually it's required by the pharmacies to log pseudoephedrine sales. It was fully implemented in 2012.
It's a real-time database. So you buy Sudafed in my store, you can't go down, if you buy the limit, you can't go down the street and buy it in the next 5 minutes. It's literally a real-time database, so it would block the sale.
So it limits a customer from buying in excess of 3.6 grams of pseudoephedrine in a 24-hour period, or 7.2 grams over a month period. And it's provided a good tool for law enforcement in a real-time environment to identify those known actors, the bad actors, so to speak. But I think the meth cooks figured out a way to circumvent the law, which created the problem that is commonly referred to as smurfing. Okay? And so that's what we consider the Smurf merry-go-round. Okay? Because they found this circumvention around that law, they can find anybody that's willing to go and buy their Sudafed for them, pseudoephedrine, I should say, and they make their batch, and the revolving cycle just continues. It's basically a ride that's open 24/7, fueled by unabated pseudoephedrine sales and other precursors or ingredients that are needed for making a meth batch. We find that some of our retail locations are one-stop shopping for a meth cook. As we mentioned, NPLEX provided law enforcement with a good tool, but sometimes perhaps if they have these new Smurfs coming in, they're not maybe pinging the NPLEX system in a way that can be identified by law enforcement easily until they start to show up more and more. We know that it's easy to find the methods of how to make meth on the internet, and it's such an addictive drug that the ride just continues. We see it in our communities and the havoc that it causes. And we know it's costing us lots of money, okay? It's for manpower for law enforcement, incarceration costs, healthcare costs related to when they're incarcerated, because we know that the meth addicts aren't the most healthy people in the world. What happens with the children, all the social services needed for the children taken away from meth-addicted parents, the clogging up of our court system, and all the costs associated with that. And I probably left a bunch out. So we started asking ourselves, do we have the money for more jails, or should we try to reduce the pseudoephedrine sales?
A question, Mark.
Okay.
The system as it is today, the monitoring system, the real-time information, who is monitoring that?
State police.
State police do, okay.
And local.
So there's
And
another,
local law enforcement.
there's another cost, you got state police who are monitoring that 24/7.
Sure, that's their tool. That's a
Travis?
very valuable tool to law enforcement.
Travis?
Sir?
Anybody in law enforcement can access an NPLEX, is that correct?
Yeah, anybody that signed up for it.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Ted?
Sure, thank you.
So what we call the ugly numbers. Just to give you some statistics about pseudoephedrine, for those who are new to it. It only takes 2 boxes of pseudoephedrine to cook a batch in what they call the one-pot method. A Smurf can get $50 for buying that 1 box of pseudoephedrine. That would be for a 20-pack, 120 milligrams Sudafed. The number that really woke me up is this one right here. 694 boxes of pseudoephedrine were sold in the month of December. I went back to my store and I looked. We sold 25. So between Adam's store and mine, we represent maybe 25 to 30% of the pharmaceutical volume in Fulton County. We sold 25, 694 were sold in the county. Oh, there we go, 32, sorry, didn't even do my own money. But anyway, what that extrapolates to is roughly 600 boxes went into making methamphetamine in the month of December alone. And that number can be backed up. I think pretty much the state police agree that roughly 80% of pseudoephedrine purchased currently is being made into meth. So if you just do the math, multiply it times 12, that's roughly 3,600 methamphetamine batches coming out of Fulton County in 2014. Between 2008 and 2014, there has been 114 properties that we know about in Fulton County. According to the professionals that do the cleanup, it costs anywhere from $20,000 to $55,000 to clean up your property if you've had a meth cooked in it. Now, as we know, many of these properties are probably uninsured or underinsured. So just $2.28 million in cleanup costs alone. An unknown amount of lost property value, because if they don't clean it up, the health department flags the property and it cannot be occupied. So now it becomes an abandoned trailer or abandoned farmhouse that will sit and go to a point of weeds growing over and eventually maybe getting bulldozed. But those properties go off the tax roll. As many of you know, we had a very nice home on Jefferson burned to the ground because the local man just rented out the back bedroom to a guy who decided to make meth there. That property is now an empty lot. Probably a $30,000 or $300,000 claim. 95% of CASA cases are involving methamphetamine. Roughly 55% of the current inmates are on some drug-related offense in Fulton County, with a majority of those being meth-related. This is what they refer to in a one-pot method. Most of you are probably familiar with this, but this is pseudoephedrine packets. This is a instant ice pack. That's where they get their ammonium from. They used to steal anhydrous, but they can use fertilizer or they can use that. They use lithium batteries. Lithium is a very volatile substance. It reacts to air. So they have to buy camp fuel, Coleman lantern fluid, and they put their lithium in there until they're ready to use it. I don't know this whole process, but they also use lye, water, and this is what they call one pot going on right here. They just make it in 2-liter bottles or pop bottles. They can have it in their backpack as they're walking around, or they can have it in their trunk of their car. Or they can do it out in a farm field, or any place they want. They can do it in a Walmart bathroom. One pot or shake and bake is definitely the most common thing, and this is really what we're all tasked to stop. It makes its own ammonium gas. It's currently the #1 method. Many common toxic household chemicals are used. The recipes vary, but this is the one ingredient they have to have, pseudoephedrine. The final product is what they call D-methamphetamine, or pseudoephedrine meth. It's twice as powerful as the Breaking Bad Mexican meth. Much more addictive, and there's less cut. This stuff's raw, pure product that is extremely addictive. Probably the most addictive substance ever developed. They literally never stop wanting it once they've tried it. So we call this an evolving epidemic because as law enforcement and laws have changed, the meth cooks have changed right along with us, probably much faster. They're probably already adapting to what we're talking about. But MPLEX and its current laws have forced meth cooks to recruit hundreds of individuals to purchase pseudoephedrine for them. These individuals could be anyone. They're not easily spotted. They're not all tattooed up. They could be anybody. They could be a friend, family member, neighbor, factory worker, college student, virtually anyone who wants to make a quick buck. One of my employees' husband works in a factory in a different county, and he was approached in the break room. Hey, I bet you've got a clean license, don't you? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, can you go buy me some Sudafed? And he was like, what? He goes, if you go get me some Sudafed, bring it back tomorrow, I'll give you $50. And this happens every day. This activity is commonly referred to as smurfing, and the individuals themselves we call smurfs. MPLEX cannot easily identify these smurfs. They obviously know they're known criminals, but there are hundreds of them in every county. The reality is Smurf is the link between pharmacy and the meth cook. The pharmacy staff, on the other hand, can very easily identify a Smurf. Their behavior is widely known. They usually seek a 20-count package of 120 milligrams Sudafed, enough to make 2 grams of meth. They don't come to the counter talking about their symptoms or their sinus headache. They usually cruise by the counter, looking to see what's back there. If they see it, they ask for it. Sometimes they'll even use street slang when asking for it. Many chain pharmacies do little to limit the sale. I think there's a perception because it's behind the pharmacy, the pharmacist is doling it out. In most situations in a chain store, the pharmacist has nothing to do with the transaction. You got a cashier standing behind the register. They come up and say, do you have any 120 milligram Sudafed 12-hour? Yeah. Turns around, grabs it, scans the license, and sells it. She knows they're a Smurf, usually just by their behavior, but she is totally intimidated to do anything about it. They're just trying to get them out the door. Matter of fact, chain stores, the ugly thing that we've discovered, is that upper management of chain stores actually prohibit them to restrict sales. They don't want any conflicts in their stores. They don't want complaints at the customer service counter. And so they just ignore it. And they profit from it. And they put another 70 boxes in stock for the next day. The typical behavior is, if they find it, there's one thing they carry. They're carrying a $20 bill usually to buy it, and their cell phone so they can text their buddies and let them know where it is. So as soon as you make one sale, it's literally 5 minutes later there's another individual at the counter asking. And there are some chain pharmacists that have told me that they can literally see 70 people through in a few hours just because of that behavior. And it just keeps on going. The pharmacist is rarely consulted. He probably sees it happening. He's doing nothing about it. And matter of fact, he's intimidated by district managers that tell them that they cannot restrict it. They actually keep track of how much they've sold and wonder why. They come by and make sure the shelves are fully stocked. They can write employees up if they're not. So pharmacy is really the heart of the meth problem. Pharmacies in every county sell pseudoephedrine, an essential ingredient to make meth daily, knowingly to Smurfs, who use it almost immediately to make meth. I mean, they literally usually cook that same day. They can't wait. Pharmacies and pharmacists must assume responsibility for this product. Fortunately, there are two companies that are developing meth deterrent pseudoephedrine. Nexafed and Zephyrex D. These are made in a way that if they try to make meth from it, that it significantly depletes the volume of meth that they can extract. This is made by Acura Pharmaceuticals. We have two representatives in the room right here from Acura. This company had actually developed this product in a location just north of Culver. They can talk to us in detail and answer any questions after the presentation. And then there's also the Zephyrex D product that is actually a little gelatin-like pill. It's made in a suppository mold. It's not quite as desirable to take, but it is very difficult to make meth from it. More products like this are on the horizon. I know Acura's got a 12-hour formula there and works with. They also have a combination product that has Tylenol in it. But the big pharmaceutical companies, the ones that make the generic pseudoephedrines, Claritin D, Zyrtec D, Aleve D, Mucinex D. If it has that D, it's Sudafed. They don't make anything meth deterrent because they would lose potentially 80% of their market share if they did. Until we can get some laws that say, let's just display this stuff, and they're no longer in the picture, that's what's going to force them to. They can make meth deterring pseudoephedrine tomorrow. I'm sure they would be happy to work with Acura Pharmaceuticals in developing a meth deterring version of their product. Consumers embrace these effective products when they know about them, but most chain stores don't even stock them. When we started this process in Fulton County, there wasn't a single chain that had a meth deterring product in stock. They do now. Nexafed, oh, we already talked about that.
So the chain stores, all those up there that we recognize, dominate our state and really across the nation. We think, probably pseudoephedrine sales, 80 to 90% are attributed to these 4 chains that we see up there. So we got to thinking, what if we approach these guys and try to get them on board as being part of the solution in our community? And in theory, we're thinking that if we can do that, reduce that active ingredient that's required for meth production, then we can virtually expect that the lab problem will disappear, almost. Okay, we've seen that in other states, such as Oregon or Mississippi, where they went to, by law, prescription only for PSE, pseudoephedrine, and their meth seizure rates just went almost to 0. Okay, so I think this is a good alternative compromise solution for our state. But instead of restricting, what we saw was that some of the corporate policy, like Harry just mentioned, maybe doesn't promote any restriction of sales. Maybe for the profit motive. Okay, and that's what we were considering the ugliest of the ugly part of this story, where it seemed like the local pharmacists that we talked to recognized the problem in our communities. They probably live really close to where they work. They saw the impact in the communities, and we found them to be allies, basically, of sympathizing with the situation, recognizing that pharmacy could make a difference in this problem. However, when we go up the chain, the corporate chain, we found some limitations there, different reasons, discrimination, so on and so forth. Do you have something to add?
No.
So here's what we did. We sent letters to the chain stores, pharmacies, the management. It didn't prove very fruitful. We found that we had to go one-on-one, make contact, reach out to them. And we basically asked them to do these 3 things, the first 3 bullet points up there. Quit displaying any product that is not meth deterrent. Just don't let the Smurf walk by and see their favorite product on the shelf. only the meth deterrent product, like Nexafed or Zephyrex. Offer the meth deterrent product to anyone who asks for a PSE type product, PSE for pseudoephedrine. And then if the customer refuses the Nexafed or the Zephyrex, then the clerk would call the pharmacist and say, I need you to talk to this customer. They're refusing the Nexafed or the meth deterrent product, okay? The consultation takes place. The pharmacist legitimizes the medical need of the customer and determines the action to take on a case-by-case basis. 6 stores in Fulton County, 6 pharmacies, I should say. 2 of them are Harry's. Harry's been doing this policy basically from the get-go when meth started becoming a problem. It hasn't been a problem in his store, and you can see the results that he mentioned earlier, just in the actions that he's been taking to legitimize the need, the medical need.
We simply had a process that we did back in 2009 that said, if you're not our customer, we're not selling to you. That's all we did. We know you, so if they come up to the counter and ask for pseudoephedrine, have you ever had a prescription filled here before? Oh, no. Well, I'm sorry, we restrict the sale to people who get prescriptions here. And that has solved it for us. This was long before meth deterrent products. We never turned down a Sudafed sale to a legitimate customer. I mean, if they need it, they're getting it.
So we found that Walmart, surprisingly and very quickly, accepted those first 3 bullet points. And actually someone in law enforcement told us that Walmart is the most likely one to get on board with you guys because, you know, they're always looking out for their big corporate image, okay? And that's what we found here in Rochester. That's where our store is. Walgreens and Kroger have removed the single entity products. They put the Nexafed or Zephyrex type product on the shelf, and they've started training their staff, their sales clerks and such, to legitimize the sale. In CVS, we're still waiting on some answers, but as we know, CVS has taken tobacco out of their stores, so we're anticipating that they're going to get on board too. And as we said, the early results are really positive. From our point of view, you'll see here in the next slide. And I think if you decide to implement this in your community, that go in to the local pharmacies expecting them to want to help and support the problem, support the solution, not the problem, support the solution, okay? And I think you'll find that they'll be ready to do something. So here's what the numbers look like. 700 or so boxes in December of 2014. Spike in April. We started talking to the local pharmacies in June and July. The June number was somewhere 460 or so. 460, yeah. And July, it was down to right around 400. As of August 17th, we had 194 boxes sold in the county, and we extrapolated that out for the end of the month to look somewhere around 340. So we're hoping that we see this trend continue to decline, and Harry's belief is that somewhere underneath 200 is where like legitimate sales would be.
125 is my target.
Oh, we've changed it. Good. I think probably you based that on Pulaski's numbers?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because because of what?
Well, I did the math on Pulaski today while talking with a agent or representative from over there, and Pulaski County sells a lot less pseudoephedrine than we do, and you'll see in a little bit. But they're still selling about 70 to 80 boxes a month that go into meth. So that's that's way too high. Their real number is probably 50 in that county, and so they've got some work to do. Every county's got work to do, but that.
And Harry's basing that on a pharmacist over in Pulaski County, so still seeing smurfing activity. And then Harry will talk to you about block sales and the other metric
Yeah,
we're watching.
there are 3 metrics. There's boxes sold, and the second one is block sales. Block sales occur when a person tries to buy it and they've already bought it too soon. So you'd think, it sounds like the more block sales, the better the number would be, but it's actually the opposite. Block sales is an indication of smirking. So if you've got a lot of block sales happening, you've got a lot of smirking activity. I really think in our store, since MPlex has been around, there's probably been 2 block sales, maybe 3, that I've ever been even aware of. Because my patients are not buying it too soon. They're buying it when they need it, not because they can. So pharmacies really need to note these individuals that have block sales. That's your SMRF right there. Chances are, I'd say 99.9% of the time, a block sale is a SMRF. Identify who that person is, and make sure the next time they come in, they're only offered a meth deterrent product. They're not going to buy it. So here's block sales in Fulton County since we've started this, and similar drop. It's still too high. We're getting 25 block sales. Majority of those coming out of one location. Average box size is another indication. The max I could buy is 3 grams. So my average, I did the last 4.5 months of pseudoephedrine stories in my store last night. My average was 1.6. So I'm down below the graph. And then, I have some people buying big sizes. I got some people that buy the limit. But, if a person comes up to your counter and they've got a cold, and they say, do I have something for the sinus headache? You've got a box of 24, 48, or 96. What are you going to buy? You don't expect this cold to last a month. You're going to say, just give me this small box. That's all I need. Smurf, on the other hand, how much can I buy? So this is too high. It is not following suit. This is a little bit disappointing number. We're not really sure why this number's not dropping. Another possibility is chains tend to sell a large size. I mean, their staff is trained. If they're walking to the shelf for a customer, they don't grab the small pack size. They grab the big pack size. So they're trained. If they go to the shelf for that customer, they're grabbing the big pack size and offering that. If the customer says, "Oh, wait a minute, you got anything smaller?" then they'll grab it. But in most cases, they're grabbing the big size. So that could also be attributed to it. So this is pseudoephedrine boxes sold per county. Here again, we're proud to say we lead the pack. Pseudoephedrine sales. This is population adjusted again. But this is since our efforts started. So now we're kind of getting down here to average. But legitimate number is about right here. So we still got a long way to go. And then this is block sales. A lot of lines there. Pick your favorite county. This is Fulton County after we've started legitimizing. And if you notice right here, Miami County is shot up about the same time we went down. So either our Smurfs are coming from that direction, but about every county, well, there's several of these counties around us. Marshall's gone up, and this is Stark going up. So, I mean, these are trends that go all over the place, obviously, from the looks of this line. But I really, and that was really the whole point of us reaching out, because what we do in Fulton County means nothing if everybody around us doesn't do it too, because these guys can travel, obviously. A lot of Smurfs come from out of county. Talking to a Pulaski County pharmacist, she says almost all the Smurfs she sees are not from their community. They like to go to stores where they're not known. And they like to come to Rochester because there's 5 to pick from. Simple solution, stop the Smurf. This is not approved use of the Smurf.
Poor Smurfs are getting a bad rap here.
They are. So these are the steps we put together based on what we've done. Some simple 6 steps to do in your community to partner with the local pharmacies and the efforts of law enforcement in your county to develop a program to eliminate the meth labs. So put together a group, go visit your pharmacies, consider resolution or ordinance, get your local media involved, and trust but verify. Okay, let the pharmacies know that you're watching. Okay, and then if it's something that you're going to implement, you want some assistance from us, feel free to contact us. In your packet will be contact information that you can reach out to us. Here's just suggested possible members, politicians, non-politicians, passionate citizens in your community. We probably all know people in our lives that has had a family member devastated by meth. Okay, so I don't think it's going to be a problem finding people to get involved in your group. I think it's critical that you have a pharmacist on your team. Okay, Harry has been instrumental in helping us to understand how this thing works within the pharmacy setting. And then it also gives you that credibility with the other local pharmacists where they can talk peer to peer. You let them talk to each other, and then you just help your local pharmacist that's on board with you. And of course, county officials like the sheriff, the health officer, any elected officials on the city or county council, and the local coordinating council, I represent that in our county. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's by state statute required within every county, and it's got a substance abuse prevention mission. Okay, they grant out money in the for prevention, treatment, and criminal justice. Okay. So when we go out and visited the pharmacies, what we did is ask them if they are seeing smurfing activity go on at their location. And if they're allowed to do anything about it, or are their hands tied by corporate policy. We found with one pharmacist that this person took things into their own hand and said, when I come on shift, I'm taking all but 6 boxes of the favorite pseudoephedrine product off of the shelf. So then when those are sold out during my shift, it's going to be an empty cap or location where the Smurf will walk by and say, oh, they don't have any. Therefore, then maybe the Smurf would not go back to the clerk and say, do you have pseudoephedrine? Just to make it a little bit more hard for the Smurf, okay? Ask them if they stock the 2 meth deterrent products, either one, Nexafed or Zephyrex. If they don't, provide them with information. And that's in your, I believe it's in the packet.
They can all order it. It's available.
I think we found with Walmart that their system of ordering was blocking.
Yeah. She had a jumpsuit groups, but she got it.
Yeah, but again, she was that pharmacist was the one that very quickly got corporate okay to do those 3 steps that we asked. If they're not restricting sales, you know, again, approach them as an ally and just kind of share stories in the community, personal stories of what you're aware of about the impact of meth in our community, and just to get them on board. And just have that positive expectation that they are going to be part of the solution. That's what we found. The local pharmacist recognizes that they can be a solution to the problem. And of course, you know, one of the stories, this is what really caught my attention about a year ago. We were in one of our LCC meetings. The CASA director at the time shared that the policy, when a meth lab is busted and a child is found, that by OSHA directive, they're supposed to be stripped of their clothing because it's contaminated with the chemicals and such, wrapped in a blanket, and then they're taken probably to the ER for assessment. And that was that was shocking to me. And Diana,
Yeah.
I remember that meeting. We were like, you gotta be kidding me. I had no idea that kind of stuff was
A kid
going on.
like stuck in the back of a cop car.
Yeah, so a story like that that you could share with the pharmacist, that would be for a pharmacist that doesn't recognize what the issue is going. I think they will, though. So of course, ask them if they want to be part of the solution, have that positive expectation. Try to seek out the contact information for those people up the chain of command, up the corporate chain. In your packet, you'll find a letter that we had sent to one of the corporate district managers, okay? And then what happens is when you get one particular pharmacy on board, then you can leverage that with the other ones that aren't on board yet. Say, hey, so-and-so over here across town is on board, so maybe you better more strongly consider this. Harry's now going to cover a sales policy and a scenario for best practices, and make sure that you share that with them when you go out to visit.
Okay, say this sounds complicated, but really it's very, very easy. Once you understand, understanding how a pharmacy operates and stuff, but legitimizing is easy. Like I say, these Smurfs, you can almost spot them when they walk in the door. You can even ask them those kind of questions. Do you easily identify a Smurf? And I guarantee you they're going to say, oh yeah, we know who they are. Meth deterring products are easily available to treat the condition, and when you offer that product, you're outing the Smurf. That's why we have that in the policy. So if they come up to the counter and ask for Sudafed 12-hour, in fact, cashier, instead of turning around and grabbing it, says, this is what we have right now. This is Nexafed. This works just like Sudafed. They're not going to buy it. They're going to turn around and leave. They know if they don't buy what they come in for, they don't get their 50 bucks. These people aren't rocket scientists. They're basically being told to go get it. If they don't get what they're after, they leave. They're not going to debate it. If they don't see it, our policy is to offer this. If this isn't what you want, then how about you wait a second here and I'll have the pharmacist talk to you. Maybe there's something else we can use. It's a very polite way of handling it, but they're going to turn around and walk out the door. You got to realize that their sales are going to drop 80% when they actually just do that simple process right there. Most staff we have interviewed feel uncomfortable selling to a Smurf, but pressure from upper management kind of covered that about restricting the sales. So the best practice scenario, simple, just remove from display. You can put it back on a back shelf somewhere and put the Nexafed and Zephyrex prominent. Still has to be behind the counter. These products still have to go through the NPLEX system. But the good thing is if you sell them either one of those products, it burns their ability to buy more. So if they go out the door and find they bought the wrong thing, they're not going to be able to go in and buy the right thing. At least for a while. If a customer asks for Sudafed, particularly 12-hour, have the cashier offer the deterrent product. If the customer refuses, they can talk to the pharmacist. Some stores may say, well, a pharmacist is too busy. They don't have time to do this. The cashier is going to eliminate 80% of them by just offering the Zephyrex. The only 20% of these patients are legitimate, and the pharmacist is actually going to build the relationship with that patient by offering them something. And a lot of the conversation is going to be, oh, it's Ted. Yeah, go ahead, sell him his Zyrtec V. I know Ted, he takes that all the time. And that's all the legitimization step there is, because he's going to know his customer. The people that are his regular customers, he instantly identifies with.
Do you really think that's true at Walmart, though?
A large part it is.
I was going to say,
it's a very busy store.
Yeah, very, very busy.
Very busy store, but their pharmacy customers is a definitive group, and if they don't, they still can identify, with a few common sense questions. A legitimate conversation is, I've been to 3 stores. I just had this happen a couple weeks ago. I have got a sinus headache. It's driving me crazy. I've been to 3 stores trying to find Sudafed and nobody has any. Do you have any? I looked at her. I knew who she was, but I was like, I don't know. I said, I've got this Nexafed product. It works just like Sudafed. It works great. I'll take it. She bought it. 2 days later, I saw her again. How did that work for you? My headache was gone in 30 minutes. Great.
Now,
That's a
you were-
legitimate
You
transaction.
were showing the boxes of the,
Mhm.
and does it actually say on there?
Met deterrent capabilities.
Met deterrent,
Yeah.
okay.
Some of them do, some don't. But most of them do now.
Yes, sir.
So it's an easy process, whereas that typical Smurf is, hey man, you got some 2120s? No?
That's what the box is.
Yeah, I saw the picture up there, it was like it had been.
You pass it around. Sure.
Just don't take it.
You have to, he has to count.
After consultation, if the pharmacist determine there is a legitimate need, they can sell them a product. You know, maybe they're saying, I really, maybe they come in asking for Claritin D. In states where they've legitimized, a lot of meth is made with these other more expensive products like Claritin D and Lead D and stuff like that. So they still need to be legitimized. But they're not going to want to spend $24 if they can spend $6. So anyway, they will still try that process, but it's just simply identifying them. It's pretty easy to tell somebody that has sinus problems. You know, backache is a little more difficult. But they're coming in with a head cold or sinus headache, it's rather obvious usually. And they might be saying, hey, I need to get it for my granddaughter. Okay, you know, maybe they're getting a prescription filled for an antibiotic. Makes sense, they would want something to help with their head cold. So there's lots of ways to legitimize. You look the person's profile up and you see OxyContin and Vicodin and all this other stuff. I think we'll just stick with the next fit. If the pharmacist is suspicious, they should continue to restrict the sale with meth deterrent products. You can, even though the meth deterrent isn't in everything, we can make it up by just doing 2 products. I can take plain Claritin and Nephorex and make Claritin D. The next fit. Keep saying Nephorex. Sorry, guys. Combining them. Maybe that should be your next product. Nephorex. But anyway, you can make any product that's a combo product that doesn't have deterrents. You can meet the same pharmaceutical need easily. The pharmacist can do that with his eyes closed. Post a sign that says, Walmart is proud to be part of the solution to reduce meth manufacturing in Fulton County. You know, that's what, actually Walmart is going to get one of these signs. They're going to get several of them. Let them buy into it.
So next step is consider a resolution or ordinance. And the packet that you're going to be receiving will be a resolution that is going to be in front of the City Council on Tuesday, and we expect passage of it. That resolution basically states what the problem is in about 4 pages, just the situation in our county. And then it ends requesting the local pharmacies to buy into these policies that we're talking about, those 3 bullet points, basically. And although you can't have a lot of teeth in a resolution, a lot of consequence for inaction, we do make it, in the resolution, make the pharmacies aware that we're going to be watching. We're looking at those 3 metrics of boxes sold, block sales, and grams per box. We're going to be watching that. So you'll have to talk to your local city and county attorneys about the ordinance. Although in an ordinance you can have a little bit more teeth in it, but you'll have to have that conversation with your within your county. And of course, get media on board early so that they can support your effort, get the word out. It will help you in recruiting, your recruiting efforts for your committee or task force, whatever you would choose to call it. Of course, it's going to help you get the word out on any government actions that are taking place. It'll be an opportunity for you to recognize the pharmacies that are on board and being part of the solution. And don't forget, you know, the latest technology, 21st century stuff, social media, you know, stuff that I'm a dinosaur on. The Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of And then trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify is basically providing them the charts. The police are they're very willing to share aggregate data. You know, the MPLEX is a very specific law. The consumers can't see individual store information or individual customer information, but they can provide you with data for your county. And you can start, it's very simple to just put the numbers in Excel and create a chart. That's what all these things were done with. And it's a very simple process. There's somebody in your community who can easily gather that data, produce a graph, keep tracking it, keep sharing it. Send it to the pharmacies, send it to the media on a monthly basis. If you demonstrate that you're watching them, they're going to be more willing to follow along. And then seek assistance as needed. You know, the Fulton County Action Committee has got a lot of energy. We're here to help you. We're committed to eliminating methamphetamine manufacturing. If you guys want my contact information, here it is. webrx@gmail is my email address. I'll be happy to help any way I can. We talked about legislation. Purpose of this meeting is not to discuss the legislation, but I kind of wanted to briefly hit on it just to show, because what we want to see, do we really want to wait for a law to do this for us? Because if we wait, it's going to be 1.5 years, 2 years at best before something goes into effect. And in that amount of time, we're going to have another 20 to 100 meth labs. We can get this done regionally. Matter of fact, if we can demonstrate as a group, if we can get several counties doing what we're doing and we start seeing our pseudoephedrine numbers drop, that number is going to be shared with the legislators to show that pharmacies can legitimize. There's a lot of doubt that maybe that can happen. But actually, there's a state that has done that, and that's Arkansas. Mississippi is one of the 2 states that made it a prescription drug. They made it a prescription drug right at the beginning of 2011. People were flooding across the borders in Mississippi into Arkansas buying pseudoephedrine. So Arkansas has got a very proactive pharmacy group, and they quickly passed a law that said the pharmacists had to legitimize the sale. It's still available over the counter, but do what we're talking about. Let the pharmacists legitimize the sale. Here's Indiana, here's Arkansas, here's Mississippi in 2010. State law, state law. You can actually see Arkansas did a better job. Arkansas did a better job in 3 of the 4 years than where it was a prescription drug. Last year, Arkansas had 12 meth labs, Mississippi had 2. We can do this. Just ask yourself, you're ready to be part of the solution.
I'm just curious, Harry, have any of our state legislatures seen your presentation or
Yeah.
heard from you guys?
We presented to Randy Head, and he is going to have a bill. He's going to carry this Arkansas proposal. And we're trying to get more. Have a representative from Indiana Cities and Towns here today. We're going to talk to him about that as well. It's a common sense approach. There's a lot of opposition to making it prescription. Obviously, it's an easy solution. Make it prescription. Forget about the 20% of the people that want to take this legitimately. But the people that fight that are those consumer groups. The Indiana State Medical Association has fought it in the past because they don't want the doctors to be burdened any more than they already are. It takes 6 months to see doctors in some areas now. And so if you refuse that pseudoephedrine to a legitimate person, then the next thing you know, they're having a sinus infection, they're in the emergency room. And so there are serious concerns about restricting it legitimately. But pharmacists can do this. Pharmacy as a profession has wanted a class of drugs that we can have all to ourselves for years. You know, so you had to come to a pharmacy to get it. We've got it with Sudafed. Well, in the state of Indiana, you can still buy it in non-pharmacy situations, but almost 99% is being sold in pharmacies. But as a profession, we're just totally screwing this up because we're selling it to literally everybody that freaking asks for it. A typical example of something that pharmacy has legitimized in the past is C5 cough syrups. You got a bad cough. Most chain stores legitimized it by not selling it. They couldn't teach their staff how to legitimize it. They had too much problem. And so many chain stores didn't even sell C5 cough syrups because it was something the state board inspector would come by and look at. But that's the same thing with Sudafed.
So when Harry and I did this presentation for Senator Head's the Child Safety and Substance Abuse Task Force back in July, he was quoted in the Logansport paper as this idea that we were sharing with him and his task force as an elegant solution. So that's why we call it a good compromise solution, not going to the prescription only, but using this model of the Arkansas law to implement here in Indiana. And Harry's also been talking to the 2 pharmacy associations that he's a member of and trying to build support there, possibly for both of them to agree on supporting the law. I personally feel like there's momentum going in the state to do something. And I think if we can share with more and more of our circles of influence, we can then influence our legislators. We've talked to Representative Harmon, and he is looking at the Arkansas bill, considering his support for it. As Harry said, Senator Head is definitely on board, so he's going to sponsor the bill.
There's definitely not a single senator or representative that thinks we need more meth labs. That's a pretty firm statement. They all want to do something about it, but they struggle with how to make this happen, and really this is a solution that can work. The teeth in the law would be the State Board of Pharmacy. Pharmacies that sold high amounts of Sudafed could be possibly brought in front of the State Board of Pharmacy. The pharmacist or the pharmacy could be sanctioned or possibly even lose their license. So there's the teeth to it that we don't have locally. There's also liability protection from the pharmacist that's definitely needed, so that we don't get sued over discrimination. Or we don't get a pharmacist sued by, or we don't get a pharmacist fired because he's legitimizing, because upper management thinks he should be selling more of it. So there's those things go in the legislation as well.
And is that part of the Arkansas legislation?
Yeah.
too?
Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't ask you about this before. Would you want to share latest with the clean team?
I can, I guess. As Mark mentioned earlier, Fulton County, Miami County, and the state police entered into a multi-agency task force because neither one of our counties had one. A lot of the surrounding counties, and even as Mr. Rowe alluded to several years ago, they had a task force comprised of 5 counties, and they kind of ran their course, and we kind of got out of it. And both counties kind of worked at it as they could with the officers they had. We've got officers, and you know, Andy Schatz back here did that for years, worked the drug scene and whatnot. So it really kind of come out of a formulation with the state police. Fayette County, back about a year ago, they had a huge number of overdose deaths with heroin. Close enough to Cincinnati, they were having a lot of issues. The city and the county sheriff, the city police chief down there approached the state police and said, we need to come up with something. And they had a pretty good success. Having cited the numbers that was presented today, we were kind of in the same boat. And Miami County and Fulton County really didn't have anything. So we jumped on board. The prosecutor's office in both counties, both sheriff's departments, both city police departments. We partnered with some other state agencies and really have a 11 agency task force that's been involved, and we've had some good success. What I can share with you, in about the first 3 months, I think we're somewhere around 65 criminal arrests, somewhere in there. I don't have all the numbers right in front of me now, but most of it's been drug related or meth related. They're focusing outside the meth into the heroin because that's become more prevalent in the area. So the task force has been really encouraging. The guys have done a wonderful job on that. I can't praise them enough. All the agencies, it seems, pretty good cooperation on this. So, so we're excited about it. I think the word's getting out, is it not, Travis? I mean, when I'm in the jail, I hear comments about, man, that damn clean team, you know, so apparently it's making some impact, so, but, I'm pleased. I think Tim Miller, the sheriff down in Miami County, is pleased with it too, so, and I don't know, Rick, you have any comments on that too?
I don't on that, but can I say a couple other things?
Sure.
To emphasize some of what you said, from a law enforcement standpoint, meth is like nothing we've ever dealt with. You can look at the 92 task force that Dick talked about. We were dealing with marijuana, cocaine, those kind of drugs. People can get off of marijuana. People can get off of cocaine. People can get off prescription drugs. People don't get off methamphetamine with rare exception. And the law enforcement, while we work our butts off, I had, on Monday morning, we do criminal cases in circuit court. I had a whole box of files. And I sat there this past Monday, and I went through them one at a time. Meth, 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 something else, meth, meth, something else, meth, 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 something else. That's what we have. But the problem with law enforcement is the solution, and it's got to be a component. By the time you catch somebody with meth, as Harry said, they're already addicted. It's too late. And the thing I love about this, or the prescription drug bill that can't go anywhere, you've got to stop meth from being made so that you can stop people from using it to begin with. Because once they use it, they're going to be in that criminal justice system. I've had people literally spend 15 years, 15 actual years in prison and come out and be arrested for meth 3 months after they get out. It never goes away, and it's why it's such a horrific and destructive drug. And this solution, when this was first described to me, I love this because you can't get anywhere so far at the state legislative area or level, and I'm really excited about this, and we are blessed to have Harry as an independent pharmacist who doesn't have to answer to somebody up the chain to do what's right and to get this thing moving. And we really are blessed with that, and this is a fantastic idea. The Arkansas law is a very simple law.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual statute
Yeah.
that deals with this is probably, what, a couple paragraphs or so?
Yeah, it's not complicated.
Right.
And there's not a pharmacist that couldn't easily say, oh, yeah, we can do that.
Right. And the
That's
key
what's
though,
amazing to me about it.
and I think we can do it. The only thing I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. I didn't realize you were going to the council with the resolution, but I think we can do this in an ordinance form. I've done some research on that, and the only thing that would prevent that is the home rule statute if it's preempted by something else, and I don't think it is. But here's the thing, you pass an ordinance, who's going to challenge it exactly? Is the Walmarts of the world or the Walgreens of the world going to come in and say, we want to fight this ordinance because exactly why do you want to fight that ordinance? Because you want to sell pseudoephedrine to make meth? That's the reality of it, and that's what they're going to have to face as the public. So I think an ordinance is doable. The only thing I don't know is how to enforce it, but I think if you had the ordinance and the pharmacies knew about it, it would do what you've described, is it would give them the basis to say, hey, Mr. Upper Management, we have to do this in Fulton County because it's the law in Fulton County, and it gives them that extra reason to follow your protocol. So I would like to talk to you guys more about that.
Sure, I'm sure afterwards.
But it's a horrible problem. And
It's introducing all these Smurfs to methamphetamine. Many of these guys, some of these guys are meth users, but a lot of them aren't. And all of a sudden they're now having this weekly conversation with a meth cook. And
you only have to
he's well, maybe you ought to try a little of that stuff.
And that's
all it takes is once. So, if you sit there and think we've got probably 300 Smurfs hitting Fulton County on a monthly basis.
And the other advantage of an ordinance, I think, is if we could get an ordinance passed, and then that's something that's more easily exported. If you have a successful ordinance here, and Plymouth wants to pass an ordinance, and we already have one, I can tell you just from a lawyer standpoint, nobody likes to recreate things and dream things up to begin with. If they've got it, if the city attorney in Plymouth calls the city attorney in Rochester and says, hey, send me a copy of your ordinance, they don't, you know, those kind of things can spread. And if it starts spreading and starts working, it's exactly what you said. It will create pressure to do it statewide. And I just am really excited about what you guys have done, truly.
That's very encouraging, thank you.
One other thing, again, I appreciate you guys, both of you doing what you're doing, what you've done. I've been trying to spread the word with the Sheriff's Association. I had a conversation with our executive director. He was a sheriff down in southern Indiana where this all started years and years ago before it migrated to the north. He's tickled to death. I asked Val to get a packet together so we can get it to them. The Sheriff's Association's been very proactive with legislators down at the State House trying to get this, and what they were pushing for was the law to make it a scheduled narcotic, but again, because of the reluctance of the legislators. So we kind of feel the same way, and I don't know how Jeff feels about it or what his feelings are, but this, again, looks like a good compromise, if you will. And I think from my conversations with him, they want to see it at the table too, to help.
We are putting this information, this recording that's being done by RTC is for our benefit. We are going to put this on the web, so we can share a link on Mark's website that's going to have this video, and we also have a packet to pass out to all you guys today with this action plan, and that'll be on the web as well. So obviously I've got a lot of passion about this, but I can't physically talk to 92 counties. I got other things to sell besides Sooth. I'm not selling much of that.
He's trying to. Share it with 92. So.
Well, but I would encourage, just like Rick, the Prosecutors Association downstate. You know, you have the Indiana Cities and Towns. The same with the Association of Counties, Andy's, the police chiefs. You know, all those organizations, I think we'd be all, you know, incumbent to work towards a similar goal. And I think the more of that type of cooperation, you know, there's voice, you know, voice in numbers. If everybody's on the same page and can press for that, I think that's a pretty clear message.
Part of that problem has been the focus, including myself, the focus on, because I've seen, you know, you have the graph up there, you see Mississippi where it's a prescription drug, literally, you said 2 labs, and those 2 labs, as I understand it, were on the border where people could go to another state and get their pseudoephedrine. And so there has been a focus, and that's where I've been focused, is for God's sake, why can't we get this a prescription drug? This, though, you know, I never knew about this till Harry told me about it. It is an elegant solution is a good description of it, because it takes that dynamic off the table and yet gives you a real handle to get a hold of it. And I might be able to get it passed, I don't know. There's been so much resistance to the...
Well, an elegant solution that is successful from county to county also puts a lot of pressure on your state representatives.
Exactly.
They don't want to be left behind.
Sure. Yeah, we're saying, you know, in the House they can only get 6 sponsors, so you know, there's a limited number of sponsors that can sponsor this bill. It's going to pass next year.
Harry, we targeted the people that own these properties and where this stuff's happening. Do we know where these homes are at in our county and in our cities? Have they been the homes
ones that have been meth labs?
Yeah, have they been pin mapped and marked?
Oh yeah, the DEA actually tracks every meth lab.
Because, you know, if I was buying a house in my block next to a meth lab, I wouldn't buy that home.
Yeah, but you know, the reality is the number of meth labs we found versus the number that exist, minuscule. This is a much, much bigger problem. You know, there's been many meth labs that have just been, somebody evicted their tenant because they weren't paying rent, and they go in the dang property and there's meth being made in there, and they're throwing it in trash bags and haul it out and don't call a soul, hope nobody knows about it. That's probably 90% of it.
There's one home in this town that a guy rented just recently. It had a tag on the door from the state police. He ripped it off and rented it to 2 people that have children.
The health department has a list of houses
That's obviously something that's...
Ripped it off and...
Well, that could be stopped.
Oh, I know. I've already contacted you.
My name is Ian Conger. I'm a trooper with the state police, and I do meth suppression for the Bremen district. the state police, as of July 1st, has posted on their website, indiana.gov/meth, has the map of every home since January 1st of 2007 that a meth lab has been found at. So if you think there's been a lab there, you can verify or double check on that website.
Lots of good statistics. That's where
Thank
half
you.
the slide presentation comes from.
Thank you.
Accurate, guys.
I just want to say that in West Virginia, a similar effort was led by Senator Manchin, who used to be governor of West Virginia, and he encouraged the pharmacy chains in that state to stop selling traditional single ingredient pseudoephedrine, and all of them, including CVS and Walgreens, they all took those off their shelves and started selling Zephyr XD and Nexafed. And this was about the beginning of 2014. And let's see, pseudoephedrine sales in West Virginia dropped by over 30% during the first 6 months of 2014 versus the same period the year before. And in the past 2 years, major retailers like CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, Fruit Pharmacy have voluntarily tightened their pseudoephedrine restrictions. Now stock only meth-resistant versions. And in 2013, there was a total of 531 meth lab seizures. In 2014, which was the year they all started selling meth return products, that dropped to 313. And through June of this year, they had 123 meth lab seizures. So that would put them at about 250 by the end of this year. So this is kind of a good case study of how switching to meth-resistant products and giving the different chains and different pharmacies more more opportunities to make their own decisions and carry it can really drop the meth lab seizures and make a big difference.
Just 2 points to highlight on that. This was a non-legislative solution. This was about a governor who now I think is a junior senator for the state, actually shaming heads of Walmarts, CVS's, and whatnot, right? We don't want you doing what you're doing. We know that 90% of what you guys are selling is being diverted to meth. You're ruining the state. It's a public health crisis. If you don't basically take these off your shelf, supplant them with meth-resistant products, we're going to start shaming you publicly. And it took no more than that for basically the whole state to roll over and start complying with his wishes. And again, there was no legislation needed for that. It was just persons like yourself, a little bit higher profile individuals, of course, but it's the same premise as what you guys are trying to do, is you can shame these big dogs into doing what needs to be done.
Senator Ed is meeting with representatives from the corner of Happy and Healthy, and hopefully getting some policy changes.
Yeah, the term is corporate responsibility.
Yes, I'm kind of a cut and dry guy.
Well, Val went right to the top of Walmart.
He did.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it.
Val
That's
sent
the way
a
to do
letter
it.
that's
I can tell you, it's been a couple of months now, but I went down sort of outside of the Acura, right? I'm a bit conflicted here, it's kind of our product, but I live in Marshall County. I have a 9-year-old daughter who's having to live with, she missed or had to go to school, I think, a couple extra days last year because people were chucking meth labs out the windows on the school property. So they had to have days off of school, do the meth cleanup. So this kind of came about that. It was altruistic for me. I had the tools to try to do it. I had J&J, and again, some of the big dog pharmaceutical companies 5-6 years ago getting challenged by DEA to, what are you guys doing? And their corporate pushback was, meth-resistant products, they can't be made. There's no way to actually do that. And after hearing this for a while, it's like, wait a minute, right? It can be done, right? We can do this. And I guess even if you're not a believer in the efficacy of the product to thwart meth, simple things like we have on the box about joining the fight, and this is a meth-deterrent product, right? Like Harry said, if you offer somebody that, right, and it says this is meth, right, deterrent, these folks will turn around and go the other way. So there's a method to the madness. Again, there's multiple ways to get at this, and I think a coalition of people like yourselves is probably the better way to get it done. what I was going to say is I met about a month ago with Dr. Jerome Adams, who's our health commissioner for the state, and introduced him to Nexafed, introduced him to meth deterrent products as a whole category. He had no idea they even existed. So he's got the word now. He's all about getting on board, but like any person on high like that, it's so how do we actually do this, right? And it comes back down, I think, to individuals like the ones in this room, getting the word out, letting people know, and putting pressure on a lot of the pharmacies to do the right thing. So we've been trying locally in Plymouth, Marshall County and stuff, and not having the success that you folks are having. So once you get this buttoned up and get the statistics, I think over a year or so, you know, like you said, exporting, I believe is the word you use, sort of the model, any sort of ordinance, I think will be very beneficial to the surrounding communities.
And you invented the product, right?
I did. It's kind of my baby.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, we do. We do, as a company, we do, everything we do is with respect to abuse deterrence. We make abuse deterrent versions of oxycodone, of hydrocodone. Can't snort them, can't inject them, you know, stuff like that. And I guess I saw sort of outside our company, because again, I mean, you can go to places like New York and whatnot, meth just isn't a problem. It's very much seems to be a rural thing, at least for now. I saw the ability to apply what we learned from some of the opioid formulation work that we did to do this and to try to pilot it. And again, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it has real world value, and you know, it's not perfect, but you know, we're going to continue to try to improve upon it while at the same time giving legitimate users, which is also part of this, the option to have probably the best decongestant there is.
Yeah, that's provided just that much better options for this policy here.
And I can, just one more little thing, and then I'll stop with the preaching. My wife is a chronic allergy person, all right? And again, this is kind of outside it, but directly inside of what we're talking about today. A legitimate user having to sign the book and whatnot when they go to purchase cold medicine, if they see Nexafed on the shelf, and we'll call them an altruistic person with good intentions, they will request that, and that pharmacist consumer interface at that point in time is far nicer than, you know, I'm trying to figure out if this guy's a Smurf or what, right? I mean, you know right away that person is legitimate when they're asking for a meth deterrent product. So for the consumer, there's also value.
They actually like buying it.
Exactly,
They do
exactly.
like buying it. They think, oh yeah, they're actually proud that they do a meth deterrent product.
But I mean, good for the community, but again, at the same time, you're not going to look at them with beady eyes like, are you a criminal, right? Are you going to Smurf me? What are you doing with this, right? That whole interface has changed at that moment. So, again.
And I think that's part of the way this works is the local people know it. They know the problem. People in this county know this is a huge problem.
Right.
And are willing to do something about it. That's why your pharmacists were positive.
Right.
But that doesn't translate then down to the legislature. But yet, here, people they do move like this, and I think that's why you're going to get this done. You have got it done. I went and tried to get Sudafed about 3 weeks ago. And I'm telling you.
We didn't go to the right store.
I hated to bring it up, Gary. I stopped at Walgreens. I had a horrible cold. If you know, in terms of, like you say, identifying symptoms, you wouldn't even recognize my voice. And I was all stuffed up, and I just wanted to get, and I kind of have forgotten. I didn't know, at that point, I didn't know that you'd gotten the rest of them on board. And so the lady behind the counter was someone I've known for over 30 years, actually was related to my wife. And she put me through the drill.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
It was actually kind of curious. I said, I was just wanting some, you know, you got some wall. And the first thing I saw, I walked up and I saw I'm sorry, I want to say Nplex because I'm used to that, but the Nexafed. And I thought, oh, that's interesting that you got that. And probably the other ones there too, but I recognized that box. And I said, well, you got, I want some Sudafed. And she starts, you know, asking me like, well, what's your problem? And going through all that. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to see how this all works. And so eventually I asked her, I said, well, don't you just have the wall fed like you used to have? And she said, well, yeah, we do, but it's back here around. I mean, it really is effective. I mean, that was for someone that she knew I wasn't going to go make meth.
Right.
We're doing
and it does work. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it does put you, if I was there to get it from Meth, I'd have left long before we got through that whole conversation.
My wife is right behind you, she's shaking her head. We were doing one of these presentations, I said, hey, I need you to go to one of these stores, Corner of Healthy and what is it?
Happy and healthy.
Yeah, and get me a box for demo. And she came back and she said, man, that was awkward. You know, so I'm going, good. That's what we're wanting to do.
The other thing she said, because then I started talking to her about it, and she said, you know, they've adopted the thing. And she said the number of people coming in have plummeted. I mean, she said the people coming in there now, a fraction of what they had coming in there before. And word gets out both ways, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once they know they're legitimizing, they don't waste their time.
So they're heading to a neighboring county somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to Miami County.
Who has the sign-in sheet?
It's back here.
Okay. If you didn't get to sign in, please make sure you do. We'll put it up here on the front table. And Val, I wanted to mention, has done a lot of letter writing to some heavies. Okay, like he wrote right to the Walmart CEO. I know he's written to a couple senators, and so he's contacting the heavies. And he's also put together a really nice booklet for, do we have for most everybody, Val, or?
Yeah, we got 60 copies.
We have an action plan for everybody here. If you're from a sheriff's office or a LCC coordinator, see me, we have special copies for you. So I have it in a box here, just take one with you when you go.
Is there any other questions before we?
It only takes 1 or 2 people in your county, folks. It doesn't take a committee of hundreds to pull this off. 1 or 2 active people approaching the stores and doing this is all it takes.
This is at least say Cass County. That's just to demonstrate that we can put any county on there we want. They're all the same.